AI usage need to be safe and approved by the IT and AI specialty. So are you saying right now your new process is like using the AI tool like Cloud Code to generate a very fast prototype, but maybe not detailed, but very quick?
Yes. So what we're doing right now is definitely in motions. If you're a one-man band where you've got, all the tools at your disposal and you're the CEO and you're the product manager and you're the designer, and that's what these tools are sort of enabling right now. The more familiar you are with the tools, the more capable you are to basically do it all yourself.
All right, let's get started. Welcome to US Stories. I'm your host, Lee Han Hicken. Chris and I built TheySet after we scaled user testing the com from zero to IPO because we saw the listening gap. AI allowed us to build 10 times faster, but we are still listening to customers at the same slow speed as a decade ago. So my guest today is Mike Mancuso, head of product design at Veoci. Mike has a legacy track record building design system for 10 million users at Wiley and leading US for public safety at BlueLine GRIT. Mike, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this episode. So is my audience who's in the US design role. So Mike, you have seen every evolution of design over the last 20 years. So before we dive into the technical detail of the shifts that I'm excited to talk about, what's your core philosophy as a design leader? What's the Mike Mancuso version for what good design should actually achieve for a business?
Well, thanks for having me on, Liang. And that is a question that I'm sure I could answer in a number of ways with a lot of words. But I think one of the many takeaways of my career so far is I've seen design transform from a sort of a nice to have to a fundamental piece of the product machine. So I think, any effective means that your team has of adding value, which includes, of course, primarily understanding your customers' problems and trying to solve for those problems. I think that's going to stay true as we move into the future, as things dramatically change. But that's always been true, right? The need to be the communication layer for the company with customers and between your colleagues. So design oftentimes can be that translation layer that can demonstrate, perhaps visually or functionally, something that a customer has described as a pain point, as a salesperson has described as a need for a feature, a product manager has described as a need or a requirement. But does anyone really know what it is we're talking about until they see it? I think seeing is still believing. And so, there's a lot of transformation happening right now, but fundamentally, the design thinking mindset, the design approach should be primarily about communicating and visualizing ideas and solving problems for users.
Totally. I actually have seen the design role become more and more important in the last 10 years. Sometimes some organizations, the design team actually overseeing the user experience function. I think I've seen like, for example, the user testing budget goes under the design role. And
Mhm.
also just for normal regular people, every time when a product doesn't work, everyone always say, what is the designer thinking? Everyone's always thinking like design, almost feel like design and the product seems to be like equal, or sometimes like design is almost the soul of the product. Feel like design is leading where the product is going and product is the execution part of it. So, given that today AI can do a lot of the building part, design feels like it's very, the still part of like understanding the human needs, human pain points. I think that part, I don't think AI can understand my needs or my pain points as well as a human can be, and also let alone solving my problem, solving my needs. That's, I think that make the design even more important. What do you think, Michael?
I think it's really good at pulling from things it's been trained on. So, you might get a result using AI today that, feels directionally very close to solving a pain point or looks polished and modern and functional. Therefore, it must be solving the problem. But I think you're right. I was thinking about this before today's session, and I do still believe that there will always be a role for humans in user research. That's not to say that I'm not interested or leaving the door open for the possibility that AI can do a lot to sort of augment that process or give you insights and signals that could be a lot more efficient in some ways. But in the end, unless it's computers making software for other computers, essentially, why even do the visual translation layer on a computer screen? Why not just speak in fax machine tones to each other and skip the humans
Exactly.
altogether?
Yeah.
So if there's a human in the process, then a human should be in the process of evaluating what's going, if it's usable, if it's solving their problems, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's like human and machine collaboration. I think machine is very good at doing repeatable work, and human maybe more creative work and strategic work. So at least that's what we do. Have a machine do repeatable work. That's what they are very good at doing and control the quality, and human do the design and strategic work. Cool. Let's talk about the things that we are excited about here today. So you and I first connect, Mike, that you're talking about you're moving your design system to something more fast, more modern, which got me excited. Can you tell me more about like traditional how you guys run your design work and what you guys are moving to? What kind of system that is going to make you guys more efficient? I think I've talked to many design team that dream about making the move you are moving to, but they were too afraid of, they don't think they can do it. Can you describe that kind of transformation that you are thinking about doing?
So first, I think it's important to say that this is a work in progress, and I think it will be a work in progress for the foreseeable future. The industry and the technology obviously is rapidly transforming. And so the process that we used to follow that was arguably either more waterfall at times or certainly more iterative, smaller feedback loops, iteration, but with the caveat of like usually there was an upfront design artifact that was created at whatever fidelity. That process seems to have quickly gone away. It's sort of happened before my eyes over the last, I want to say, 6 months to a year. Now, like I read LinkedIn, I see what seems like everyone in the world talking about how far behind you are and, you know, what you're missing out on if you don't take advantage of this incredible technology. And yet I feel like there was a little bit of a watch and wait approach for a bit and, early dabbling with the tools that were available to us. But there's so much I could say. We are in the process of transforming from the traditional get a spec or a PRD, do early user experience, do some user flows, identify your personas, do some user flows, do some wireframes, iterate on those wireframes, and then produce high fidelity designs where a designer or multiple designers go into painstaking detail to create pixel perfect designs and prototypes, and then hand those off to other humans that then look at them and interpret what has been designed into a final product. And it's helpful when there's a design system in place because then hopefully the repeatable elements of any of these designs are already decided, already on the shelf, already deployable as components and organisms, et cetera, to sort of build out the repeatable things so that the real work should ideally come, among other places, in creating these sort of unique elements that may be required. So that process has transformed. Actually haven't really done personally, and I am sort of a hands-on player coach as head of this product design. I haven't really done any high fidelity design for the most part in about 6 months. And the reasons are many, but I think lately it's become an important step was the organization giving us access to a common set of tools. So in our case, using Claude Code has been transformative, right? Whereas before, we also had access to Gemini, at one time access to GPT, and you can do one-off things with these tools. You can, I'm sure experts will say, no, you can do more. You can actually train it
Yeah.
on your design system. Sure, but if you don't have buy-in from the organization, from the development team, from your AI experts at your company, you're only going to get so far. And so I think like getting that sort of central buy-in and that commitment to transforming that process is something that's exhilarating and also a little scary at times.
Yeah, totally. AI uses need to be safe and approved by the IT and AI specialty. So you say right now your new process is like using the AI tool like Cloud Code to generate a very fast prototype, but maybe not detailed, but very quick.
Yes. So what we're doing right now is definitely in motion. So I just got off of a call talking about how we were going to further document our process to onboard new designers, to bring other developers who are maybe not, as close to this new process as we are into the fold, and basically to understand how we can measure and optimize what we're doing for the future, because it will change. It will absolutely transform and even simplify, and steps may end up disappearing. But yes, we've got access to Claude Code. We're looking at, and we're connecting Figma right now via the MCP server into Figma. We were about to go buy a UI kit, and it was going to cost something like, just for a small team of 5 people, it was going to cost something like $1,000. We just generated it. Our team just decided, let's just plug in our brand information, our color palette, our tokens into into Claude Code, and to essentially generate all the variants of buttons and other components. So or something like, I think we're all the way through in generating that. And now the next step will be to document it. You still want all of that detailed information of when you should use a component, when not to, what are the constraints, what's it for, all the information that will be necessary for, an LLM as well as a teammate to understand what component to use when, how to evaluate that it's been used effectively, et cetera. So we're in that process right now of transforming to a place where if there's a spec or some kind of requirements in a ticket, in a dev ticket, we will, once all of the initial research has been done, the problem statements are all sort of validated, we will then go and do some iteration. And some of the things we're talking about in our business require user experience fundamentals. So we're not necessarily always inventing new things. In fact, a lot of the work right now with a platform refactor that's coming soon is about bringing those fundamentals into the interface. And so making sure that our design language is intuitive and easy to use, and is, an improvement over previous versions. So that's what we're sort of focused on right now, is figuring out how to document and make repeatable a process that involves design, moving very quickly using tools like Claude in conjunction with Figma to publish our design system, and then use that design system to generate things like, basic things like form elements, step forms and pagination, navigation, you name it. There's so many things we're focused on right now.
Yeah. So this sounds like a really well thought out system that you're doing it. But what's the benefit and ROI of doing it? I can think about one thing from my world is like, now you don't need to take a lot of time to make a fidelity design. So you can have the AI make these and then show to people to get feedback quickly before you fill out all the details, before all the directional feedback is right. Ali, is that right? Or, am I missing something?
Well, I definitely think there's a huge cost savings component, time saving component. What it's doing to us is, maybe slowly, but it's doing to us is it's sort of compressing these roles together. The role of a product manager, a designer, and a developer are starting to, the Venn diagram is starting to overlap more. It's not the sole domain. Everyone's a designer, right? It's not the sole domain of ours to have, feedback or sort of a visual perspective on any given feature or flow. But, you still have designers, well, people who've been in the industry, they have experience, and you can leverage that experience to sort of, do some thin slicing on what's working and what's not working, or what will or will not work. But for new designers, I think about them as well. Like, how are they going to slot into this new world, this new workflow, and what will they be doing? And they have to understand the product sort of perspective, specifications, market research, user research to validate problems, success criteria, et cetera. And the developer is charged and responsible with shipping code, functional code, testing, et cetera. And somewhere in between is the designer overlapping that skill set and still being that bridge and that glue between these disciplines, and the beginning of the process and the end of the process. So that's what we're wrestling with right now, and trying to make it something that we can make repeatable, understandable. We can train others in our organization on it. And in the process, be more efficient, ship faster, learn more quickly, and then iterate so we can improve the product more rapidly.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're saying like all the role is merging together. I've heard the talk from the CEO of Microsoft. He's saying they have merged four roles into one role. Like they merged the US designer, the product manager, the front end coder, and back end coder into one role. It's just called a product builder. It seems like you guys also merged the designer, the UX researcher, the product manager, and the engineer into one role. So one of the things maybe we're trying to figure this out ourselves. So this one product builder now have to master all these skill sets that now all of a sudden they have to design skill. They had to know how to do market research or product usability testing. Now they had to do coding, and it feels a little bit overwhelming. And I've seen different thoughts in the market. Some people say, well, that's not my job. I want to do security. I want to do this. I'm going to outsource the, usability or US design to someone else. So I don't want to do that, job. So they will just hire agency to do the
Uh-huh.
design work. And
Uh-huh.
then some people say with this new person need to know all their skills with AI tools. So, what do you think the future goes?
Well, definitely not a mind reader, but or don't have a crystal ball, but I would say I'm pulled in two directions. One is I'm intrigued by all these roles. I'm inclined to act like a product manager more. I'm inclined to be a developer in the sense that I'm producing code that it could be potentially usable or pushable. I know others are doing this more, especially, startups and sort of newer entities. They're doing this probably more and more. We're not necessarily right at that spot yet, but I feel the push pull of trying to assume more responsibility for the end to end experience and wanting to participate in it. However, on the flip side is I feel like it is a little bit unrealistic to put all of that on one person. I mean, maybe I'm old school, but I believe that, a number of brains with a number of perspectives on a problem, communicating well with somewhat clearly defined, if overlapping, roles and responsibilities equals a great output. I think, when that grouping is working really well, you get better software. If you're a one man band where you've got, all the tools at your disposal and you're the CEO and you're the product manager and you're the designer, and that's what these tools are sort of enabling right now. The more
Mhm.
familiar you are with the tools, the more capable you are to basically
Do
do it all
everything.
yourself.
Yeah,
But I suffer from the lack of other perspectives, people telling you, "Don't do that." Now, the converse to all of this is the cost of trying something is really reducing and going down to very little. So, user research used to be about protecting development teams' time. Now I wonder, how costly is it to ship the wrong thing? I think none of us want to ship the wrong thing. We all want to nail it the first time. We want to solve real problems, get those insights that are not on just on the surface, but like not just what you say, but what you mean as a user with that feedback that you're giving can make the difference between making something that on paper looks good but doesn't really work, sort of a brick, no one really cares, to making that thing that people, creates that engagement that brings them back again and again. So, these are all competing feelings and
priorities. Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah, Mike, I agree. Usability testing used to be protecting engineering time, but I think right now usability testing is more about protecting your users' experiences. Because if you ship something bad today,
Mhm.
the customer has so many choices. The bad experience is shipped; it cannot be undone.
That's right. And the amounts of choice out there, it's sort of like the menu at the diner is so overwhelming because you can have anything you want. And suddenly you don't know what you want. And that's the same experience it feels like with software today versus, the small pop-up, restaurant with three entrees. It's easier to make a decision about what you want because I believe in this statement, customers love constraints. And so or users love constraints is the right saying. But
Exactly.
ultimately, I think that's true of software as well. It's like when you can't build brand affinity or experience affinity because there's always a new flavor of that type of software coming out, you just end up hopping and you don't really build any kind of relationship or
Loyalty.
workflow. Yeah,
Yeah. That's why I feel like it's customer experiences is something that worth protecting. That if customer have great experience, they'll keep coming back. But if you ruin that, that's something you can undone. So, well, I wanted to wrap it up. You mentioned that once the vibe design system is in place, the next step you want is like getting feedback faster, like with something like they said's AI system, because now you can have, you can build something with high fidelity using AI to get design in place, and then using to get feedback quickly, so you can actually get it right, build right thing, solving the right problem for the right people. I guess how does the benefit of vibe design system change when you pair with the AI moderated feedback? Does it change the role of the designer, or I think the role of designer change a little bit now that they had to do vibe design system, they also need to master how to use AI moderated testing to get feedback. If they know how to use it, they save a lot of time, but they also need to know how to use it.
Right. And well, part of knowing how to use it might be understanding its value. And part of knowing how to use it effectively might be understanding what goes into user research, those fundamentals, right? Because you can get a lot of signal from a lot of different places. At Veoci, we do targeted customer research. We don't necessarily do we do certain standard things. We have an NPS signal coming in. We have voice of the customer surveys coming in. And we have customer feedback coming through our solutions engineering team and our sales reps and our support area. So there are a lot of signals coming in, but I think we can probably do more. And so one of my goals is to integrate feedback into the platform itself, getting that feedback at the moment of usage or at the moment of the problem. That can sometimes have an effect of having an uptick, sometimes a major uptick in negative feedback at first, because you're making it easy for a user to actually complain or what have you. And, hopefully they're not, but you're making it a lot easier for someone to give their opinion at the moment of potential frustration or joy, whatever it may be. So sometimes that signal can go up initially, but then I believe through careful observation and drawing of insights from the feedback that you're getting, you can easily solve some low-hanging fruit problems and some bigger, more involved problems. And then you'll get that feedback, sort of that signal back up even higher than it was before you engage in that process. So I've seen that happen before in my career. So I want to bring in contextual feedback, but I also, I think to your point, designers need to understand ideally that their role is about solving customer problems. And so, not everyone feels comfortable talking to customers. They feel like maybe they don't know the product well enough, or they're not articulate enough, or they don't know what questions to ask. So we can use tools such as they said and others to essentially help you figure out what questions can you ask that will remove much or most of the bias in terms of how they're phrased, and really to try to drill down into a problem from an analytical standpoint, where you're avoiding asking, hey, which do you prefer, A or B? Or you're getting sort of feedback that is preference-based, but not necessarily evidence-based regarding the problems that they're trying to solve.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think part of the laser AI is like we give you a research assistant that will help you ask the right question, not biased, not misleading, not trying to ask a question that get you the answer you wanted, but unbiased question. It will be helping designers to certainly have the skill sets of US researcher. So that's what we are trying to achieve here. Cool. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to ask you a quick wrap-up question. What
Okay.
is the one tool that had been indispensable for you during the transition? Is it Figma? Is it V0? Is it Lovable? Is it what's like your go-to design tool that other designers you can say, okay, Mike recommended?
I'm going to say two things, actually. If you had asked me maybe 2 months ago, I would have said FigJam.
Okay.
Whatever your flavor is, if it's Miro or it's some other tool, Lucid Charts, rapid ideation in a low fidelity way really allows us as a team to, share ideas more quickly and to visualize things in real time, or sort of, sharing artifacts after the fact to get to alignment as best we can. But my new answer is, of course, Claude Code, Claude Cowork. Having, recently gained access to those tools, I've seen an immediate uptick in the fidelity of the prototypes that we're creating. That coupled with, I know it sounds really simplistic, but I like this little process. We're a Google shop right now, and taking the things that are generated in Claude and using Google Sites in full screen embed mode as a means of socializing variations on different user experience approaches to an interface problem. It's a very easy way to share within the organization, to visualize, to interact with our prototypes, and to have something, a system of records so that we can refer back to these, post them into tickets, etc., and share with our development team. Eventually, once those are used and agreed upon, we'll go further and actually, push code and not necessarily have that translation layer. But for now, it's bridging the gap for us. So it's been an interesting journey.
That's awesome. Great. All right, let's wrap it up for the episode. What's the most fulfilling part of being a design leader, Mike?
Just watching my team grow and learn and teach me new things, and just being a part of the mix. I really enjoy the process and solving problems, and usually get involved in too many things. So yeah, I love developing and working with teams.
That's awesome. Great. All right, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your migration blueprint with us. And you proving that design leaders can lead AI revolution rather than just reacting to it and, learning from it. And, for those who are wanting to match your feedback speed to the new Vibe design system, please visit us at bayset.io. I'm Li-Hong Hicken, and this is US Story. I'll see you at the next episode. See you next time.